I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Jennifer Warawa, the EVP of Partners, Accountants, and Alliances from Sage. And let's have a great day, everybody. Thank you all very much.
So thank you very much, Mark, for the warm introduction, and to all of you for having me here today. Can you hear me? No? We will in a minute. I can yell. Oh, there we go. That's getting better. So for all of you that are tweeting up a storm, there's a hashtag for the event, Empower 2018. Who's tweeting? Awesome, none of you. That's good. Okay. So as Mark said, Jennifer Warawa. I've actually been with Sage now for just over 10 years. So I've got some good Sage background. Originally from Canada, I now live in Atlanta and am out of our Atlanta office. So real pleasure for me to be here with all of you today and share kind of our thoughts on technology and where things are headed and how you can take advantage of that. And so, you know, I want to start out by just kind of setting the stage for today, not just for my session, but for how you're going to spend the rest of your day. And this is our global productivity tracker that we have on a website. And it actually, you know, if I was really crafty, I could have shown you the live tracker, but, you know, I'm not into live demos and settings like this because that doesn't always work. But this tracker updates every second, basically representing the amount of lost productivity and costs to an organization on admin burden to the company. So administrative burden, the amount of work that you need to do that's outside of what the purpose of your business is, and what you're all about, is costing you a fortune. I'm really crackly. Am I? Is that okay? Okay, good. That's only in my head. That's perfect. So when you look at this productivity burden and how expensive it is, the time that you spend on admin, I'm sure none of you do. You don't spend any time on administrative. You just do what you love to do all day, every day, right? No, not quite, right? So when you actually look at this, about 5% of time is lost to administrative burden. And the reason that I set this up with you today is because we fundamentally believe, SWK fundamentally believes, and I think that all of you believe, there has to be a better way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You would be back at your businesses. You'd be back, you know, doing your day-to-day job. You're here because you believe there's a better way of doing things, and you're here to learn about what's new and what can I do differently to help accelerate my business success. And so that's what we're going to touch on today, is how do you get back that 5% of time that you're losing to administrative burden in your company and free it up to do what you do best and ultimately grow your business. And so that's what I'm going to be touching on. So at the highest level, I'm going to share a little bit about Sage. I think most of you or all of you are Sage customers, so you know a little bit about us, but hopefully I'm going to share a few things that you don't already know. I want to talk to you about shifting from change to transformation. How do you transform with the right technology? What does that look like from a cultural perspective? And then a little bit more information on the Sage Business Cloud. And so we'll jump right in now. So a little bit about Sage. For those of you that don't know, Sage, we have over 13,000 colleagues around the globe. We're in 23 countries. And we have about 3 million customers and $2.2 billion in revenue. So for those of you that, you know, sometimes people are kind of heads down using a solution and they're not kind of aware of the broader size of our business and our footprint and how we work. But that's important because those colleagues are building technology that help all of you be successful. So even as you're based in the California area, we're building things around the globe to help you in your business. So our North American business, just to put this in context, we have about 2,600 colleagues in North America, and we drive about $500 million in revenue through our North American business. So North America is a very, very important geography to us. Our top 3 countries within Sage are the US, the UK, and France. So it's a very, very important part of our overall picture. But what I want to share with you today is around what we call our strategic pillars. And essentially, our strategic pillars are kind of what we're all about. When you talk about values in a business, and Mark touched on this a little bit, these are things that are really important to us, and we keep in mind as we build our strategy and we build our technology, This is really important because at the end of the day, when you make a decision about who to do business with, I think people do business with people they like and people they trust at the end of the day. And so these values to us and these strategic pillars are things that are very important to us because it's about who you're doing business with. And so we've got winning in the market, customers for life, revolutionizing business, capacity for growth, and One Sage. And there are two that I want to touch on for just a moment. First of all, customers for life. And this is really important because I would gather that some of you in this room have been Sage customers for a very long time. You've been, I won't ask how long, because sometimes people are like, I don't want to tell you how long. It's been a long time. But you know, we have people that have been customers. We've been in business since 1981. So we have people that have been customers that long that are still customers today. And so for us, it's about how do we build relationships with our customers, make sure that we're giving them the right technology so they can stay with Sage for the entire life of their business. And that's really, really important to us. The second one I want to call out is about revolutionizing business. And you know, I'll use smartphone examples a few times today, but we don't want to just provide you with the technology that you need. We want to think about what are you going to need in the future and how do we innovate ahead of the business, ahead of your business, to build what you're going to need in the coming months and years and decades ahead. And so this is really important because you think about the iPhone, for example. I don't know if you're like me, but when they put the camera in the iPhone, I was like, I don't need a camera in my phone. I have a camera. Why would I want a camera in my phone? Well, if you're anything like me as well, you probably don't know where your camera is. I mean, mine is somewhere in a box somewhere because my phone has become my camera. But no one was asking for a camera in their phone. They weren't asking for it. They didn't think they needed it. It seemed like something that they would just need to take out in a couple years. But that's what innovation is about. It's about thinking ahead of the market, thinking about what's coming, and how do you meet customer demands before they get there. And so for us, this revolutionizing business is about thinking ahead and figuring out how we can meet your needs in the future. And those are really important because you need to know when you're doing business with us, where are we investing our dollars and how are we investing for the future? So you know who you're doing business with, and that's really important. So I want to talk briefly about the difference between change and transformation. This is really important for those of you that haven't seen or are not totally familiar, and Mark spoke to it briefly, the SWK mission statement, and I love it myself. SWK delights its customers and partners by providing solutions and expertise that transform their business and enable success. And I want to talk to you about two key words that I really like in this mission statement: transform and success. And they're really, really important because when they're committed, when SWK is committed to helping you transform your business to be successful in the future, that's a commitment that they're making, and it's part of our mission as well. And it's important that we're aligned on that. That's why we make great partners with each other, right? But I want to talk about transformation. What's really interesting about transformation is transformation and change are often used interchangeably. Those words are used interchangeably. And transformation is almost one of those buzzwords that's almost overused a little bit. Because change is kind of yesterday, now we're into transformation. But there actually is a difference in the activity of executing on change and executing on transformation. Change is about modifying an action. It's about doing something differently. You know, you have a business process that does it this way, now you're changing it to this way. You've modified an action. That's what change is. When you think about transformation, it's about modifying a belief, so those changes, those actions just become natural. So when you think about your evolution of your business and adoption of technology and how you become a digital business and how you start to use technology differently, I think we've almost maxed out on the change side. I feel like we've kind of hit that inflection point where we've changed a lot. We've changed a lot of our processes. We've done a lot of things differently. And now it's about changing our beliefs, because it's a cultural shift that needs to happen to move from change to transformation. And so all of you have invested your time today because I think that you believe this is important. And so it's always good when you can bust out of the office. I always say that's always good. I love being out of the office myself. There's lots of great work that gets done when you're not behind your desk. And so I kind of encourage you today, as you're out of the office and you're spending time here and you've invested this day, is to disconnect a little bit from how you've done things in the past and be really open to new ideas about transformation. Be open to the concept of changing your beliefs and how you think about technology adoption, and just be open to what the possibilities could be. Because I think all of you have embarked in some kind of change in your business, and now how do we take that to the next level? When you look at transformation, it's a journey that requires a new mindset. And that's actually the hardest thing to change, because that's ultimately, it's your mind and it's what's in your heart. And getting someone to do something, you know, they always put this over here, now they're going to put it over there. People can do that, but do they believe that's the right way to do it? That's a whole different story. And you know this as you're trying to drive technology change in your company. So it needs to be about a new mindset. It needs to change the culture, and I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. And then it requires some degree of change levers throughout your entire business. So as you start to look at the ISVs or the third-party solutions that are here today, what SWK has to offer, you're going to be thinking, okay, we can do this and that'll change the business. But what transformation do we need to undergo to make this really land in our business and be successful? Because that's how you're going to have this competitive advantage. And I'll say this throughout our time together today, is that change or technology will do one of two things for your business, guaranteed. It will give you a competitive advantage, or it will give you a competitive disadvantage. It's going to do one of those two things. If you're not changing your technology and you're not investing in technology, you will have a competitive disadvantage. You will not have the same business insights that your competitors have. You won't have the same grasp on what's going on in your business. You'll be part of that group that's spending 5% of their time on administrative tasks that become this administrative burden. So how do you really capitalize on this? And we'll talk through that. So creating transformation with the right technology. So I want to just talk to you about a few trends that we're seeing in the industry. And I use some data here from IDC. They're saying by 2020, 60 to 70% of all software services and technology spend will be cloud by 2020. So that's a really high number. Now, what's interesting is we've almost seen a shift from people that say, I need a cloud product. Sometimes probably 5 years ago, I'd sit down with a business and they'd say, I need to move to the cloud. And you're like, oh, that's a kind of a definitive, I need to get into cloud. What are you looking for? And they're like, I don't know, everyone's doing it. I need to do what everyone else is doing. Well, tell me more about what you think the benefits are. I want to be able to have my guys that are in the field be able to invoice anytime, anywhere when they're on a job site. I want to be able to have immediate access to my data. I want to be able to work from anywhere. They're looking for the cloud benefits. We've seen that shift where people just say, I need cloud, to, I just need the benefits of cloud. What does that look like? And how do I tap into those benefits of cloud? And that's what, as we talk through these trends that are impacting the market, I have some really good news for you. Everything you need to capitalize on these trends and leverage these trends in your business is available in this room. So through Sage and through your work that you do with SWK, through our ISVs that Mark mentioned that are here, the third-party products, you can take advantage of these trends. And so the other interesting part that I want to share with you is around cloud adoption rates. And this is a slide that we showed at our Capital Markets Day in London. Mark was there, which was fantastic to have him there. But when we talk about cloud adoption rates, the US is leading the way. So we talked about what IDC sees as cloud adoption, and then you look at where the US is at and how fast they're moving compared to the rest of the world. It's staggering. So you're in one of these really highly competitive, fast-moving, technology-adoptive markets. And so that makes the competition even different than it is in some of these markets, like in Spain, for example, only 12% of that spend is on cloud this year. So, I mean, that's moving at a very different pace where it's almost 50-50 in the US. And so I want to bring this to light because when we start to look at these technology trends and what's happening in technology, I always say that technology starts at home. It does. And there's all kinds of data around this. And technology adoption and those trends, when you work a certain way in your personal life, when you get to work, you say, well, why couldn't it be as easy as it is when I'm at home? So when I want to do this, I just pick up this app and I just plug this in and it just works. I go and I turn on this light, or if you've got a smart home, I want everything in my home to be smart and turn it all on from my phone, even though I could just walk across the room and turn the light switch on. It's not as cool. So you start to work a certain way in your personal life. When you show up at work, you expect it to be the same. And as we start to go, we look at the millennial generation, they especially expect that. So when you're looking for that next generation of talent in your organization, they look at that. I use the iPhone as a great example. So when we talked about, sometimes we talk about business management and how everybody wanted everything to be in one place at one point. I want to buy one solution that does everything. Well, let's rethink that and look at how we work at home and in our personal lives. It kind of changes how we run our businesses. The average number of apps on an iPhone, I had to look this up because I was going to use my own iPhone as an example. And I think I probably have like 200 apps. I definitely do not have 27 apps. So I had to look it up and go, that's it? What is wrong with people? But anyway, so the average number of apps on a phone is 27. If I went to any one of you, and let's say you all have 27 apps on your phone, and I said, I have an app for you that can get rid of all those other apps. You don't need the 27. I'll give you one that does all the same things. I bet no one in this room would take me up on that offer. Because you like your 27 apps. I don't want this app to tell me the weather. I have a weather app. I don't need this one to book hotels because I have one that does my hotels. I don't need one app. I like the apps that I have. I like them arranged the way I have them arranged. So when I come to work, it's the same thing. I don't need one app or one program that does everything from A to Z. I want best of breed. I want to find the best technology. If I'm doing sales tax, I want to use an Avalara as an example. I don't want one solution that does everything. I want to say they specialize in this. This is what I need to use. So when you look at the apps that are available in the marketplace, 2.2 million for Apple, 2.8 for Android. That's crazy. So when you look at that, if I said I could replace all of that with one app, no one wants that. And so it's changed. In our personal lives, we've become very good at going between applications and going between different technologies that we expect that when we get to work. And that's okay. And that's led to this shift between, between this, horizontal application that does everything from A to Z to more of a best of breed approach. And I want to give you one other example. And this is, I particularly like this example, but we're going to start with maps. So how many people in the room have used a map? Okay, it actually worries me that there are less than half the people that have used a map. I must be really old. All right, let me tell you about maps and how they work. No, just kidding. I always think it's interesting because they say, don't text and drive, it's really dangerous. But I remember when I used like a Rand McNally road atlas, and you're driving along and it's on the seat next to you, you're driving like this. So you think my phone is not a distraction. The map was a distraction. That's a totally different thing. But when you think about maps, I don't know if you were like me, but when you used a map, and I remember the maps very well, when you got to the edge of the map, you didn't keep driving. You're like, because you don't know what's out there. You either bought another map to go off the page where that one ended, or you kind of stop and you stay within this confined area because you don't know where you're going. And that's all you had was what was on the map. Go buy another map. How do you think that affected how you got around a city? Or you got around town? I did not drive when I went to different cities. I didn't. I'm not going to go to, I think about when I lived in Kelowna, British Columbia, and then I'd go to work in Atlanta, I would never have rented a car if I had to use maps. Are you kidding? Like 10 lanes of traffic and I'd be reading a map? That would not happen. But then I got a Garmin GPS. And I carried that thing with me everywhere I went. And now I can just listen and it tells me where to go. So now, instead of staying in this confined area of this map, I can now feel pretty confident that I can go anywhere I need to, and I can kind of venture out and do things differently. I all of a sudden started renting cars in every city I went to because I never felt like I was going to get lost. I was never worried. It changed how I traveled. And I would guess that it changed how you travel as well. Then you start to get into this predictive. Now, if you're using Gmail and you have an appointment in your Google Calendar, it pops up and says, you should leave soon because you need to be there by 3 and traffic is heavy. Now, that can be a little bit creepy. Sometimes you're like, well, that's kind of big brother-ish. You know where I am. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what predictive is about. So now I don't even worry about what time do I need to leave. My phone just tells me, okay, you need to get going. It's time, you've got something coming up. That really changes things. When you think about Waze, now I know where the police are. Does that change how fast I drive? It does. I can feel much more confident about driving faster now. But I mean, Waze changes that, and all of a sudden, I feel like I can navigate anywhere. I know the fastest way to get somewhere. It's not just about the Garmin that just says, here's how you get there. Now it's about the fastest way to get there. Now it's changing. I don't go just down the highway because it's the easiest. I can go all over the place because Waze tells me where there's no traffic. And then finally, we get to Explorative and this exploration place that we're in now. When I go to a different city, I don't necessarily get out a book. I used to buy those books and say, oh, I'm going to a new city. You buy a book and then you plan your whole trip. Now I kind of get there. I go online and say, where's the best restaurant? And I don't necessarily Google where's the best restaurant. I'll go into an app like Yelp or TripAdvisor, and I'll say, I'll look at the top restaurants because now I'm looking at people just like me that have eaten there that have rated it. And I go big on ratings. When someone rates someone high or low, I action it. I'm very bad that way. It's like, I'll pay more if someone has a better rating. Has that changed the way that I travel? Absolutely. Now I'm taking the advice of people I don't even know. I'm trusting when I go on to TripAdvisor as an example, that these people that I don't know like the same kind of service that I like. But it's changed the way that we work. So when you think about all of this and how it's changed your behavior from being in this box where you've got a paper map, and think about your business in the same way. If you're running your business in kind of that, and I use that as, kind of an analogy, a paper map state, where you're kind of in this box, and when you get to this edge, you don't go any further. Think if that's your business, and your competition is over in this explorative phase, and they're reaching out to people, and they're crowdsourcing information, they're using different apps, and they're changing the way they do business. Like, I don't think the Rand McNally, I wouldn't be buying shares in the Rand McNally Road Atlas company at the moment. I don't think that's part of the future, right? You need to make sure, same as your company, how are you making sure the technology that you're using and the way that you're working is the same way that you would expect in your personal life? Because it's changed how you travel. It's changed how you navigate a new city, where you eat, the types of activities that you do. Think about your business in the same light. As you go through today, how do you start to think about this transformation? Because we know whatever happens in our consumer lives flows through to business. And the faster you can start to think about what impact does that have on my business, because it definitely has one. And so I just love that analogy because I think it's so parallel to what we're seeing in the business world. This slide shows up well. Obviously, I didn't color that one quite properly. Imagine a slide, if you will. I'll let you know what it says, but this is administrative manpower burden by country. And so we talked about how the US is very forward-thinking when it comes to cloud adoption and very ahead of the game. Also ahead of the game on the administrative burden. There's lots of information about why is that, why is it that compared to all the other countries, the US has one of the highest administrative burden rates in the world. It could be, the size of when you think about dealing with the complexities of, Avalero would say all the sales taxes and all the, the states. It's complex to do business in the US, and you're not dealing with just one small country with one set of tax laws. You're really complicated across a very wide geography and a very complex business landscape. And so maybe that's part of the reason why that administrative burden is so high. But if we don't figure out how to get this down, we're not going to be successful. We're not, but your business isn't either. And so this is really, really important. The interesting part about this slide is this is the administrative cost breakdown by types of functions in your business. So for example, at the bottom, that purple at the very bottom is accounting. So lots of times when people think about administrative burden, they say, okay, we really need to get that accounting team, automated. We need to get a lot more going on because obviously that administrative burden lands on accounting. Actually, a very, quite a small portion lands on accounting. Where is the next one when you go up the stack? The next one is HR. So you look at how are you using HR? How much burden is there in HR? The next one up the stack, payroll. The next one up the stack, tax accounting, chasing late payments. Not that you chase late payments, but some people have to chase late payments. Processing invoices received, generating invoices, and talent acquisition. And so I think what's important is when you think about automating your business or the shift to digital, you need to think about it across your entire business landscape, because that administrative burden is not heavy on just one functional area of your business. It's not heavy just on accounting. It's across all of the technology and all of the business processes that you use. And so it's really important. And that's part of, you know, I used SWK as an example when I was speaking about, you know, great partnerships at Capital Markets Day when I was addressing our investor community, because I love partners that can go across multiple products and multiple functional areas for exactly this reason. Your needs don't sit in one of these areas. Your business needs are broad, and they need a partner and technology that addresses a broad range of needs. There is a business impact to this. And then this is around the proportion of companies that are using digital aids across all those different tactics that I just talked about. It's very low. So that purple at the bottom is they're fully using digital across all of those different tasks. That's probably 20%, 25%. Technology adoption is an inevitable certainty. How many have seen this chart before? Well, not as many as have used a map, but I don't know if that's good or not. So this is from Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore, and it talks about the technology adoption life cycle. And I haven't had this conversation with Jeffrey Moore, and I actually do see him fairly regularly. You know, he speaks at a lot of Salesforce events, and we end up at lunches and dinners together, so we should have this conversation sometime. But we always talk about this chasm where, you know, when you're an early adopter of technology, you just have to put up with it. Sometimes, you know, there's some learning that goes with that. When you try something new, there's learning that goes with it in your business. It's just part of being an early adopter. I love to be an early adopter. I saw and actually social media loves to sell me things knowing that I'm an early adopter. So I'm the ultimate retargeting candidate on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. They're always trying to sell me something and I buy it on a regular basis. They showed me this coffee maker where I have an app on my phone, and basically I can say on my phone, when I wake up in the morning, I want to make a coffee that's this strength and I want it to be ready at this time when I get out of the shower. And you set it all on your phone, and then it makes you this coffee, an individual, beautiful cup of coffee. And it's when you buy the coffee, it downloads all the recipes from the company that roasted the coffee beans. And I was like, I have got to have this thing. Like, I love this, partially for the coffee, but a lot for the technology. I was really excited. So I went on the website and said, yeah, you can pre-order. We're delivering in the summer. And I'm like, I can wait till the summer, no problem, introductory offer. And of course, I talk about this. I go on social. I'm like, I'm really excited about this. I get all these people that come back to me and say, yeah, I ordered that 3 years ago and they were delivering in the summer. Still don't have the coffee maker. So, I mean, sometimes when you're an early adopter of technology, you learn sometimes the hard way that everything isn't exactly as it seems. You take a little bit of risk, but it's worth it in the end. And so I think we're kind of past that point of early adoption. How do you become some of those innovators or early adopters? And the part that I think that I could have a nice conversation with Jeffrey Moore about is around this chasm where you're kind of going up with technology adoption, then you face some bumps in the road, and then you come back up the other side, you just keep going, and you have some. I think those chasms happen multiple times throughout the life of technology adoption. I don't think that chasm happens once, and then once you get into these other stages, you're free and clear. Because there's always things that are changing. But you can't let that stop you, because it's inevitable. And you want to be ahead of the curve. You want that competitive advantage. And so one of the things that's really important is around cultivating the right culture. I talked at the beginning about how transformation is a cultural change. It's something that's personal to you, it's personal to your business, and it's not an action, it's a belief. And so beliefs come ultimately from a cultural change in your business. And what does that cultural change look like? It takes a village to say, I know you can't read this, so don't try. It's okay. You don't need to do that. If you give me your email, I'm happy to send you a copy of the slide deck. I love this slide because it gets into the details around what a culture looks like, an analog culture looks like. So what does a culture for the people who use maps, what does that look like? And then what does a culture look like for a digital company? The people that are in this explorative phase, that are adopting technology, that are embracing the cloud, that are looking at new ways of doing things. And there's a definite cultural shift. You know, it's an analog culture pushes products into the market. Digital culture pulls ideas from the market. It's a totally different way of working. It's a different way of thinking. One of the things that I think is really important when you look at cultural change and when you look at transformation is that all change happens in steps. So when you're thinking about the change for your business, and you will hear about a lot of opportunity to make changes in your business today. I've seen the agenda line up, and I know they have a great day in store for you. You'll hear about lots of things. And I go to these conferences, and you sit down, and you hear about one thing, and you're like, oh, that's amazing. I'm going to do that. And then you go to the next session, you're like, I need to do that too. And then the next section, you're like, I need to do that too. And I would just encourage you, it doesn't need to all happen at the same time. It can happen in steps. And that's part of the advantage of working with a partner like SWK that can help you determine which step comes first to have the greatest impact on your business. Because it's all about that business impact. It's great if you say, well, this one seems easy, so we're going to do that first, and then next year we'll do that one. If this one over here has a low impact and isn't going to give you that competitive advantage, maybe that's for next year. Don't do what's easy first. Do what's going to give you that competitive advantage. And make sure that you're thinking about what's really going to drive your company forward. But how do you start to shift your culture to this digital culture? How do you start to understand the digital needs of your customer? One of the things that I think was really interesting was a study I saw from Bain & Company, where they went and they said to companies like yours or like mine, said, tell us about what percentage of your customers you think are extremely satisfied. And they're like, oh, I think probably 80%, extremely satisfied. And then they went and did the survey to the customers. And it was more like 20% for all of these same customer bases. And what that tells me is sometimes we don't have an awareness of exactly what our customers think about our business or what we need to change ourselves to deliver a better customer experience. Business is personal. I know sometimes we get caught up in the day-to-day and the busyness of, you know, you just get into this day, enter the office, things go crazy, and next thing you know, it's time to go home, and you get sometimes into those cycles. But when you step back a little bit, we're all here to help people. Whatever your business is, there's something that you're passionate about where you help people do something differently. It doesn't matter if it's a food business, it doesn't matter if it's a restaurant, it doesn't matter if you're manufacturing. You're doing something to make somebody's lives better. And so how do you kind of go back to that at your roots and really connect back with your customer? But this is where your customers are changing. They're going digital, and they're looking to you to do the same. And if you don't, they'll go elsewhere. And that's why you're here. You didn't come here because you're not interested in technology adoption. Otherwise, you could just stay in the office. You're kind of that cream of the crop. You're the people that are willing to make a change, that are going out and spending time investing and learning about what change needs to be made in your business. These are 7 critical levers that influence behavior and shape organizational culture. And I think these are, when you think about that cultural change, these are really important. When you think about your leadership, and I never look at leadership like a title. It doesn't matter if you're a people manager or not. Everybody can take a leadership position. It's not about title. It's not about how many people you manage. It's about how you lead. And so how do you take what you learned today and the opportunities you see for your business back to the office, to all the people that didn't leave today, that are still back there, and help them see that vision? How do you take a leadership role to say, I learned about some things that can help us do business differently, to free us up to go and spend more time with our customers, or sell more, or do things differently. So you need to take leadership to go back and sell the rest of the team on the ideas that you're going to pick up today. You need to share that. Secondly, around people and development. You know, it's really interesting when you talk to folks on the team, and I love to do this sometimes too. When you talk to people, if I went to your company and I even talked to your people and said, what is the vision for this business, whatever your business is? What's the vision? What's the ambition? What's your mission? If I talk to 10 people, I'm going to get at least 8 different responses. And so while it seems clear, unless you have that people strategy in place and you're developing those people, everybody's headed in a different direction. And so we talk about, you know, our CFO, Steve Hare, he talks about it being like a sports team. Now, he's from the UK, so he doesn't talk about the same kind of sports that I do. And I'm from Atlanta, so I don't want to talk about sports. But anyways, I'm still a little bit sad about that. But anyways, that's another story. So he talks about a sports team. So if all of us are on a team and we're like, we're wearing the same jersey, great, that's the first thing. But when we get out on the field, if someone gets out on the field and says, I'm not really feeling it today. I'm gonna go sit this one out. I'm not in. I'll play tomorrow. And someone else says, this field, I don't like, it's too wet. That one over there looks better. I'm going to the other field. Yeah, you guys come with me. And then someone else says, you know what? I've got an injury. I'm not into this game. It doesn't matter that you're all wearing the same jersey. It's about how do you get everybody rallying behind the same team. Someone says it doesn't matter if you're the MVP or the man of the match, as they call them in soccer, football. It doesn't matter if your team loses. How proud do you feel to be the man of the match or the MVP for your team if your team doesn't win the game? And so people in development is all about rallying the team together around that common cause, around that common good, around the vision that you're going to be kind of immersed in today to drive this technology change in your organization. Third, it's about performance management and about getting everybody to step up. One of the worst things you can do for your company is when you don't manage performance, you've set a different bar for everybody that's a top performer. They see that if you're an A player or a C player, you kind of get treated the same way. So why am I giving all this effort to be an A player? I might as well just be a C player. Julie over there, she doesn't do as much as I do, and they seem to think that she's the same. How do you manage performance? Because when you're in a digital culture and you're making cultural transformation, that performance management is absolutely critical. Informal interactions. Sometimes we get so busy that we get into the office and we just get heads down. And then, like I said, you leave at the end of the day and you haven't had some of that time at the water cooler talk where you've spent some time with your colleagues or with your team, just talking about what happened on the weekend or those informal conversations. I think some of the best things that happen at events like this, and I was really glad when you talked, Antonio, about that a 2-hour break. That's where some of the best networking can happen. Some of the best part of your day might be during that 2 hours. So how do you have those informal interactions to learn from each other? Because that's what's going to help drive change in your organization and drive that cultural shift. How do you make sure that you have the right organizational design? When you think about it, it's like it goes back to the good to great. It's about having the right people on the bus, but it's also about having the right people in the right seats. So how do you have the right organizational design to make sure you have the right team to go from where you are to where you need to be? Because sometimes people cling on to old technology. I mean, they do not want to change. They're like, dude, I am going to die before you make me change the way that I do things. You can wait until I'm retired before you change the way that we do things. And we have that, but the problem is they'll be out of business before they retire. Don't have that mindset. Be open to new ideas, new technology, new ways of doing things. Resources and tools. Make sure that you're resourcing your team to drive this digital first culture in your business. That you're thinking about what kind of culture, what kind of resource, what kind of tools does my team need to not just change the way they do things, but to believe different things. Because that's what's going to drive that transformation. And then finally, and Mark talked about it when he spoke, is around values. And it's about really having strong personal values in your business and then communicating those values throughout the organization. And at the end of the day, when we talk about, one of the things we talk about a lot at Sage is customers first. It's like, if that's our value, then when we're having a conversation about should we do this or shouldn't we, it's like, well, what would our customers think? How would our customers feel about that? And so that value brings the customer into the room. But it's how we start to build this culture that's open to change is by having those values in place. And that's really, really important. And so I want to quickly kind of wrap up today with some information just on the Sage Business Cloud, because I think it's really important because we've talked a lot about technology adoption, how you're investing in technology, how you're making an investment of your time today to come and find out what new technology is available to you in your business because you want that competitive edge. And so we introduced a few months ago the Sage Business Cloud. And this is really important for all of you that are Sage 100 customers. And we've actually changed the name. If you've probably received some of the communication, it was Sage 100C, and we've changed it to Sage 100 Cloud. And it's because it's cloud connected. And we want you to know that we are building cloud functionality and cloud opportunities and cloud apps for you to use with the products that you already know and love. You don't need to move. It's just about saying, what are we going to do differently to adopt this? So what's really important here is we have our cloud products, and this is where some of that renaming, for those of you that are familiar with our product that we use for startup and small businesses, it was Sage 1. Now it's Sage Business Cloud Accounting. And Sage Live is Sage Business Cloud Financials. And so those are our cloud or our SaaS products. But what's really important that I want all of you to see is everything underneath that cloud layer. Our marketplace applications, our developer platform, and our platform services. Why this is really important is all of those 3 layers underneath those products are available to the other products that we have in our portfolio, such as Sage 50 Cloud, Sage 100 Cloud, Sage 300 Cloud, Enterprise Management, formerly X3. So this is really important because as we build the next generation of technology, as we build chatbots, as we build AI functionality, as we do integrations with multiple partners that some of which you see here today, all of that is going to be available to you. And well, this doesn't totally turn up, but anyways, there's a lot of Sage and not a lot of gray words, but imagine if you will. So when we look at our ISVs, and we've got here, Russ, for you, Sage Inventory Advisor. It was there before you were here, but I'm just saying it worked out well. Sage Inventory Advisor, Sage E-commerce, AP Automation. We have all these different ISVs, whether they're Sage branded or not Sage branded, that we are saying, okay, we're going to invest in all of these ISVs to help accelerate our cloud products. But that's available to these other products like Sage 100 Cloud that's part of this ecosystem. So this now becomes available through the Sage Business Cloud. When we look at what we're doing with Microsoft and Microsoft Office 365, there's a lot of cloud functionality that comes from that partnership. Whether it's invoicing from anywhere, being able to do business on the road, integration with Outlook, being able to see what people owe you while you're in Outlook, all of that comes through our relationship with Microsoft. Cloud capabilities, there's all kinds of things that we're doing. If you heard of Peg, our chatbot, there's lots of things that we're doing that are cloud capabilities that allow you to have this cloud-connected app. All of this goes into the Business Cloud, and it's available not just to those cloud applications, but also down here, and that does say Sage 100 Cloud. Trust me. So when you think about Enterprise Management or X3 or Sage 100 Cloud or Sage 50 Cloud or Sage 300 Cloud, our goal is to give you all of that technology, all of that innovation available to you however you'd like to use it. And some businesses say, I want this to stay. I like this to be on-prem in my building. I don't want it leaving the building, but this needs to be in the cloud. And you have that option. And all those apps, do you want 27 apps or one? Everyone wants the 27. That's what we're talking about. You get to come up with the right technology for your company and put that together. So as I get set to wrap up, there'd be five key takeaways that I would leave you with today. First of all, I'd say prepare for the future, but I would also kind of preempt that by saying the future is already here. So lots of times when we're talking about technology adoption, I'm talking to business owners or partners, or I speak to accountants. They say, so when do I need to adopt all this by? Because they're looking, they have like a watch with the time on one hand and a watch with their retirement, days till retirement on the other wrist. And they're like, can I get out of here before I have to change? We're kind of past that point. It's too late now. So now you need to think about technology adoption. So the future's already here. Automation and integration are everywhere. One of the fastest ways, one of the best ways that you're going to be able to alleviate that administrative burden and give yourself a competitive advantage is through automation and integration. It's critical. It's the future. It really is. And part of when we talked to Gartner and we briefed them on the Sage Business Cloud and what we were doing for the products that we have in our ecosystem and the whole Business Cloud strategy and everything that we're doing, they said this is 12 to 18 months ahead of the competition. And that's great. And that's what you want to do. And it's because we're thinking about it from a different landscape. Integration, automation. Again, technology will provide you with a competitive advantage or disadvantage. Make sure that you figure out what can be your competitive advantage. Cultural change is going to be critical because you're past the point of where you're just changing processes and now you need to change beliefs. And so how do we start to change those beliefs in your organization? And then finally, as I said earlier, everything you need to make all of this transformation is here for you today. So, you know, we're here from Sage. There's a number of folks here from Sage, SWK, you know, putting on this great conference. A number of the third-party products are ISVs that you see around the room. Everything you need to capitalize on all these trends and all this opportunity and basically wrap your arms around this competitive advantage is available from within inside this room. So that's great news. So Sage and SWK and all of these other applications are here to help you, and we're here to partner with you. So, you know, I just invite you, do take this opportunity as you're out of the office to kind of, you know, try not to be too plugged in, unplug a little bit, and think about what's it going to take for you to change your business so you move from just tactical change to transformation. And how do you adopt the right technology to give you a competitive advantage? Because you're in the right place at the right time to be able to do it. And so thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today, and have a fantastic day.